Hey, what's up, everybody? Yellowturtle here, with my co-host Beef. Welcome to the second episode of the LUKSOfam Podcast, brought to you by KEEZ. The LUKSOfam Podcast is meant to be a short and informational podcast where we provide some takes on the latest LUKSO news in the space. In this episode, we'll be discussing the LUKSO Mainnet announcement and the recent podcast with Marjorie Hernandez, who is the co-founder of LUKSO, a forward thinker in the space, and a fashion icon.
Let's get into the Mainnet announcement article. There are now 10,000 validators deposited into the Genesis contract. LUKSO's team is committed to covering gas fees up to the first 10,000 validators. This was an updated batch of news that they surprised everyone with.
And kudos to them coming out with this article the other day. And they all kind of surprised us because their first announcement was that they were going to cover up to the first 7,000 validators. And then, there was some requests from the community to do up to 10,000 and do some more. And we didn't really think it was going to happen because they were so generous the first time for covering the first 7,000. But they snuck it into this article and kind of surprised us all. And the number of validators just shot up over 10,000 within hours, which was amazing to see.
Yeah, and people are still depositing. Maybe it's because of some speculation on receiving like an NFT 2.0 that signifies that the owner is like a Genesis validator. We all know that LUKSO values reputation and identity, so maybe that's what people are getting excited about.
Absolutely, and they dropped that AI POAP for the hackathon that they did over the summer. That was a nice surprise, along with the winnings and stuff that they gave out as prize money. So that was really cool. So yeah, they're huge on reputation and building your digital identity, right? So I think that they'll definitely reward those Genesis validators, especially if you look ahead to what they're doing for the L16 testnet validators. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, so they actually surprised everyone and said that they're going to compensate the L16 validators with rewards ranging from 100 to 200 LYXE for their contributions. I know that it was pretty intensive for some of those L16 validators. We did have some validators pushing the limits of their hardware, running 1,000 plus just to see what was possible. And I know we did have some downtime, and LUKSO reached out to the community to say, hey, can people make sure to power back on their L16 validators? And I think it was 12 hours later, they were back up to where they needed to be as far as participation.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see that community validate on the L16 because at the time there was no incentive, right? Like there was speculation that you would receive an NFT or maybe some money in return, but I don't even think money was on the table as far as just the community talking about it. So that was really cool to see. And, shout out to Rob G, who created a lot of the Validator docs, which now live on the LUKSOverse site. So that helped the community a lot with setting up these validators, getting ready for the Genesis contract and things of that nature. So that was really, really great to see.
Hell yeah, definitely. All right. So we also had some great news come out today that they started the smart contract freeze. It seems like the freeze is delayed about 46,000 blocks on Ethereum, which will take about 1 week. This means that anyone can still be a Genesis validator. So if you're technical and you're not scared to take on that responsibility, there's still time for you.
Yes, there is. And with that freeze means Mainnet is right on the doorstep. So May 3rd is when the contract freezes, and then May 23rd is the prospective date for Mainnet to launch. And I was listening to Ethelorian's Wake Up Twitter space this morning, and he brought up a really cool point that I missed, is that it's May 23rd of the year 2023. 2 plus 3 is 5. So it's 555, which LUKSO loves their numbers. They love the 4s, they love the 5s. So this is a really cool, playing with time and different things like that they love to do. And it's a fun little game that they play. And it makes me really happy to know that each move that they make is super calculated and it's well thought out and everything is happening for a reason. They've been harping on timing for years and years, and which a lot of people could think that that's an excuse to buy yourself some time. which may be true. On the other side of that coin, everything seems to be really well thought out, and the team is working really, really hard to kind of gamify the situation and excite people in different ways and have these little subtleties that add just a little chef's kiss on top of the project, right?
Definitely. Everything's super well thought out, in my opinion.
And so, yeah, no, that was really cool with the May 23rd announcement. We've been waiting for Mainnet for a really long time, and it's here. And, it's really cool to see the community backing it, super pumped. Then it's also cool to see the new developers on the team tweeting about their experiences. Shout out Johan, who joined one of our Twitter spaces recently and kind of talked about his, initial journey. He was actually the one to push the button to launch the Genesis Validator contract, which is a very fun and interesting story that we'll have to get him to share again on a recorded podcast for sure. But it's just the sentiment in the community overall seems very, very positive. We're starting to see more people build. Projects are starting to flourish. Shout out to the guys at Universal Page. They've been working tirelessly, and their UX UI looks really amazing. Shout out to the guys at LUKSO and Drops. They're cooking up some crazy things, just based off their hackathon project. Their UI UX was out of this world. If you get a chance to check out their hackathon submission, please do, and you'll be very impressed with how clean the site looks. So I'm really excited to see what comes from them in the near future as well.
Definitely, and with testnet also launching today, I know that there's a bunch of people who are extremely giddy to open up that test faucet, get some test LYX, and start getting things going. Hey, let's hop into talking about Marjorie's appearance on the What's Next podcast with Mindi Francis.
Yeah, man, let's hop right into it. This is a really great podcast where Marjorie kind of gave an overview of Dematerialized, their connection with Karl Lagerfeld, and the Met Gala that just happened this past Monday, and kind of just deep dives into her visions of the space and why she is so passionate about fashion and merging with the metaverse and the digital world.
For sure. DMAT actually had the honor of producing Karl Lagerfeld's first NFT on their marketplace too.
Yeah, I wasn't able to pick it up, but I've seen it on Twitter and it's circulating in the space, and it's really amazing. It's cool that they have that opportunity to work so closely with these amazing designers and brands.
Yeah, Marjorie kind of dove into the history between the CL legacy brand and LUKSO, or the DMAT specifically, I should say. And their first advisor for LUKSO in 2018, and still an advisor, is or was the president of Chanel Europe. So that was pretty awesome to hear. She kind of talks about meeting the image director of Chanel, who worked for Chanel for 34 years and who was very close friends with Karl Lagerfeld. And the image director actually became an advisor to LUKSO as well.
Yeah, and she talked about how that image director, I believe his name was Eric, was very, very close friends with Karl Lagerfeld. And Marjorie became close friends with Eric's family. And then with the passing of Karl Lagerfeld, he left his archive to Eric. So all of his photos from all of his shoots from all of the years. So everything that didn't get, put out into the world has been archived and saved and everything like that. And Marjorie is working with his family to memorialize his work and put it all on the blockchain. And so it can live forever. And it'll no longer have to be an archive of pictures and things of that nature that could get damaged over time, especially if they're not digitized already. This will be an amazing project, and I think it'll be really cool to see.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do with these pictures, how they incorporate them, if it's a tone drop or if it's more of like a specific collection you get from collecting other pieces. There's a lot of possibilities in what they're going to do with this. So I'm super excited. I'd like to own a few because I think it would be sick to have those displayed in your house in like one of those really cool NFT frames. And then you can kind of give it, show people and then give them the backstory of it. I don't know. I think that would be awesome. So there's lots of potential there.
Oh yeah, no, that would be really cool. Definitely gonna try to get one myself, but they're they're going to be going fast. It's going to be tough to get. Marjorie even talked about in this podcast that she almost missed the first Karl Lagerfeld drop herself, and that was her own collection, which kind of got her off on this little tangent about how easy of an experience it was to purchase an NFT on the dematerialized. And she even said it herself. She was like, I shouldn't be surprised because I'm the one that designed this, but it was still just really self-reassuring that for how easy it actually was to purchase this. She was on her way to a meeting in New York when the drop happened, and she was able to sign in on her phone, get the email magic link, sign into her universal profile, all standard things that you do with a Web2 experience as far as signing in, and then use Apple Pay right off of her phone to purchase the NFT, which would then be transferred to her universal profile within seconds. So there was no private keys, there was no seed phrase, there was none of that, none of these things that you had to worry about, because that was all happening in the background. And the Dematerialized and LUKSO pride themselves on making that user experience just one of the best out there. So, even to surprise herself makes me really happy. And I think it's going to shock the world when people start to use it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just having the capability to use something like Apple Pay just makes everything so much easier. When you're ordering food, when you're ordering anything, if they have that option, I'm going to choose it because I don't want to sit there and have to type out all my stuff every time. Touching back on the Karl drops, I haven't been able to snag any of those Karl doll type drops. I've been wanting to, but every time they're sold out by the time I get to it. I did buy the pink 1 of 200 Karl X Endless medallion. It's like a pink coin with Karl's face like etched into it. And then it's like some collab with Endless. So they've got like their kind of logos around the perimeter of the coin. And I know they did different levels. I think there was like a 1 of, I'm not sure, maybe 500. And then there's the 1 of 200 pink that I've got. And I got the pink because of course I'm going to get the pink. And then I think there was a 1 of 1 that was like made of, I want to say some rare metal or something super rare. And that one was really special. They were really proud of it. They showed it off, had this event, I think, around it too. But I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with this as far as the utility. Speculating here, is it going to act like a social cultural currency that I can like utilize to purchase a Karl Lagerfeld or Chanel potentially digital drop? Like, because I bought this piece, I think this is the reason why I got airdropped a festive gold Karl. So I guess I do have one doll, but I didn't purchase it. It was airdropped to me. But I still think there was only like 390 people that got airdropped this limited gold festive Karl around the holidays last year. So that was pretty sweet. So I guess I got one. I can't be complaining too much.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to see that as soon as possible. You should send a screenshot into the KEEZ Discord at some point. But yeah, I'm sure everything is very intentional with them, obviously. So I'm sure there's going to be some utility to giving back to those holders, especially with everything that they're talking about right now and kind of memorializing his archive and things of that nature. So I bet there'll be some utility there. And again, all speculation here, but the LUKSO team is very intentional with everything that they've done and put out there. So I'd be surprised if there isn't.
Definitely. Hey, one other big thing that came out of this that we haven't mentioned yet was that Marjorie and DMAT were approached by Karl Lagerfeld, the brand, and invited to the Met Gala this year. So it just happened. I don't know if you guys follow Marjorie on Instagram or Twitter, but she was posting all kinds of pictures of this sweet party she attended.
Oh yeah. It's the Karl Lagerfeld brand approached Marjorie and the LUKSO team, the Dematerialized team, because of her work with Eric's family, working with the archive to memorialize it on chain. So that's really cool that they recognize this technology and this emergence of this space. One thing that Marjorie, kind of harped on in the podcast was that Karl Lagerfeld was a forward thinker, similar to herself. She's definitely a forward thinker in this space, but Karl, was always thinking about technology, the latest technology, and was just always intrigued by what's out there and what you could, make with the emerging tech in the space. So his brand has kind of embodied that sentiment and is trying to expand into the Web3 metaverse space, which is really interesting to see. And it, makes me very excited to see the future of LUKSO and digital fashion and high fashion as well.
Alpha alert. Alpha alert. Marjorie spilled some tea on some Mason LYX project updates.
Yeah, she did. She, when she was asked the question of what is she most excited for in the space or what excites her the most, and her first answer was the digital brand that they're building within LUKSO's main project, which is Maison Lix. She talked about creating a small digital world, of people that are holding these assets and wearing these assets, both in a physical and digital space. She also talked about some activations in ECC pairs and start revealing users who they're working with. So, that's really cool information to hear. One take that she had, which blew my mind, and Beef, I want to hear your thoughts on this, is she said the project, Maison Lix project, is going to be something like the Truman Show and Web3 come together to create a beautiful, curated, and futuristic experience. So I really want to hear what you think that means, because the Truman Show is, for anybody who doesn't know, is a movie about this guy. He's walking around and he realized that like everything is a simulation, and it's kind of like he's already in a movie or he's already in a TV show. So like merging that idea with Web3 to create a beautiful, curated, and futuristic experience really just had me thinking for a while. So love to hear what you think.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking about it while I was working yesterday, actually, distracted. Perhaps it means that there's going to be influencers or celebrities or like normal people who utilize their avatars, whether that be like, hopefully we'll get some integrations here with like an artifact 3D model or any of the new models that are going to be generated on LUKSO Mainnet. And maybe there's going to be these cameras that are documenting what these people are doing from all different angles and, stream the user's experience. I mean, think about how popular Twitch is. Uh, are there going to be users that are going to want to watch, say, Kendall Jenner go shopping in the digital Chanel store? That's just one example. I feel like people love watching other people game. And if you take the aspect of adding fashion to it as well, it opens it up for even more possibilities. So that's sounds awesome potentially if this is kind of the route they're going.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really amazing take on that quote. It left me kind of baffled, but once I heard what you had to say on it, I was kind of opened my eyes a little bit more. And I think you're right. Like those are 100% use cases that we could see in the near future. And like Marjorie has kind of always teased to it, showing like her outfits IRL, which are amazing, right? She's a fashion icon, but then like it'll kind of like pan or like switch over to what she's wearing digitally, and it's like this crazy dress with all these like animations on it and different things of that nature, and it's big, it has volume, it has character, and maybe it's not really meant to be made in a physical space, and it's just meant to be worn digitally, because you can do so much more, you can be more creative, and you don't have to worry about the physical limits of fashion, and you can kind of just create what's whatever you're imagining. And it's really, really awesome to see. And it kind of brings us into the next part of she was talking about how the dematerialized is really exploring expressives, right? Like their NFTs, their digital fashion is meant to be expressive, in the sense it's NFTs and it's digital fashion around makeup and auras, which is really interesting because that's not a physical thing that we can see. And then beauty NFTs as well. So like these are three concepts that she just threw out there. The dematerialized is trying to really focus on with their project. And I think it's just such an amazing idea, especially with the emerging tech of AR, where, if I had AR glasses and I had them up at first and I'm just walking by someone and then I flip them down and there's just like this cool, like pink aura vibrating off of their like digital fashion wear. Like it would just be so amazing to see. It would be like walking around in an anime and you just unlocked like the chakra that allows you to see auras, right? Like now I'm getting super out there, but like it just is such a crazy concept, and like they're aiming for it in real time with real goals aligned with it. So it's not just hearsay, right? So I really love to hear your takes on this as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's out there at all to hear you talk about what kind of impact AR is going to have on everything. Just I've seen lots of examples in the space, not just from DMAT, but from tech companies as well. Advertisements, that kind of is terrifying and could be overwhelming if it's like New York City, Times Square, everywhere of advertisements. Maybe there'll be like limits on that or something. But you go running and you've got, as you're kind of scanning wherever you're running, you see your stats and your heart rate and maybe like motivation too to help you keep going. So I definitely think AR is going to be part of our society as we get these bigger tech companies releasing these, nice, sleek looking glasses. Who knows? Maybe there's one company that's recognizing the value that LUKSO is providing, and maybe they're generating their own form of AR glasses that they'll release and partner with LUKSO. I'm dreaming here. This is all speculation, but there's tons of potential there. And I'm very excited to be working with a project that's like recognizing that and, is already building. So getting back into the talk though with Mindi, Marjorie talked about how, you can do similar things with like auras and different face filters for free on Snapchat now. But when you take it to that next level and you buy the NFT version, say through DMAT with like a makeup brand, it can come with special privileges. Like you can be whitelisted for a new exclusive makeup line dropping, or like a special event, or perhaps voting on what the next collection can be. And Marjorie didn't say this. This is just me again, thinking about it and speculating. But maybe the user could be like mail dropped the pieces that can be used to recreate the look of that NFT, that makeup NFT in real life. Once again, reinforcing that phygital experience that we're trying to get here.
That's again speculation. None of this is financial advice, but it's fun to think outside the box and think of what could happen in the future with LUKSO, because this is the future that they're creating, right? They're building a sandbox, and we get to make all the castles. So it's really cool to be a part of this really early stage where many of these ideas may seem far-fetched, but 5-10 years down the line, we could really see a complete overhaul in the tech space as far as building your digital identity, creating in an online space, and building that new creative economy that LUKSO has kind of coined since the very beginnings, looking all the way back to their white paper. So to just wrap up this episode and kind of summarize, everything that we've talked about today, we started with the LUKSO Mainnet announcement, right? To over 10,000 validators deposited into the Genesis contract. That's huge. Polygon, I'm pretty sure, has less than like 2,000 validators, and Solana has less than 2,000 validators as well. And this has only been open for a week or two, and we already have over 10,000. So it's really great to see the community backing this technology and really jumpstarting and kickstarting LUKSO Mainnet. So be on the lookout for May 23rd, 555, and look out for the significance of those numbers in the near future. And then shout out to the L16 validators for paving the way and getting us up to this point. Their rewards are very well deserved, and I couldn't be happier to have that community in the space with us. And then moving on to the Marjorie podcast, the What's Next podcast with Mindi Francis. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, please do. I think we did an okay job summarizing it, but it's always better from the actual source itself. So make sure you go give that a listen. It's a great podcast with Marjorie. It's only about 15 minutes long, so it's quick, informational, jam packed with alpha, to be honest. So yeah, thank you guys. Beef, you got anything to add before we leave?
Oh, yeah. I just want to remind everybody that this is not financial advice. It's just two dudes talking about what they love.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys. Thank you, LUKSOfam. Shout out to the KEEZ community. If you can find myself, Yellowturtle, and my co-host Beef chilling in the KEEZ Discord pretty much all day. Beef doesn't sleep, so we'll be around. Thank you guys for listening in, and we'll see you next week.